Hey guys, this is your boy Markcoos, and welcome to Tactic. Today we'll be talking about player support. Now, player support dictates how the team moves about in terms of when the ball carrier is. So first, of course, we'll be talking about when the player support is unbelievably defensive. Now, when it is defensive, the amount of players like to stay behind the ball and stay closer to the ball carrier. That is actually what happens, as you can see right now. Now, the thing with player support is that it's usually only used the majority of the time. Barcelona play with a very low player support because they do get forward, but that is usually the support range and the attacking style, as well as the pressing, defense line and compactness. But the player support doesn't really come into effect here. So as you can see in this picture here, the ball would be probably in control of the right centre midfielder, and as you can see, the left centre midfielder wants to go back, as well as the right centre midfielder wants to go back. There's the back line doesn't want to really move forward, but all the other players want to eventually move forward. They don't want to go too far forward, they want to just stay back, and this is shown in gameplay. So when player support is in the balanced phase, it basically just means that they will still get forward normally as they normally would. While when the player support is offensive, the players, they want to get forward as quickly as possible in terms of when the right or centre midfielder is probably on the ball. Now, as you can see in this picture here, this player support is relatively quick. As you can see, both the left back and the right back are making runs forward. One of the centre midfielders is moving up and down to cover the support from the left back, as well as the other vacant space for the right centre midfielder. And the left mids and right mids, of course, everyone wants to get forward basically when it comes to the player support. It all depends on who the player and who has the ball, and depending on where they have the ball. So if they have the ball near their own half, as you can see here, there are a lot of players getting forward. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on the ball, 5 players around the ball, and Maxwell on the ball. As you can see, from a corner kick, Ibrahimovic has the ball near the bottom corner. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in the opponent's half. Even though it was a corner kick, they all actually stay forward. So that is your player support. On to support range. Now, when the support range is unbelievably wide, the players want to play with width. Now, playing with width makes it a bit more difficult, but the support range, everyone, instead of going narrow, instead of staying in the middle of the pitch, they want to go out wide, every player. This is shown here in the footage with Menez. As Menez makes that run out, everyone else comes in. Maxwell, as you can see at the top of the screen, stays out wide behind Menez. When the support range is narrow, they stay closer to the ball carrier. So wherever the ball carrier is, they stay close to it. The support range, of course, also determines where they actually make their runs. So this picture shows it perfectly that they don't want to run out wide too much. The right back and left back, of course, always want to provide the width, but it's all about keeping the narrowness in the pitch. They want to keep the overall pitch very narrow, as you can see in this video with Jale on the ball. Now, the thing with support range is it doesn't focus on keeping your players in the center part of the pitch. You can still play the ball out wide as long as you play a left mid and a right midfielder. If you play attacking midfielders, I would suggest you play narrow formation, a narrow support range, of course. But if you're playing with left midfielders, even left wingers, right wingers, then it would be more suggested that you play a wide support range, because they'll be out wide more often rather than being stuck in the middle. So on to position switch. Now, position switch, when it's on never, the players relatively don't do anything in terms of position switches. For example, here Maxwell eventually loses the ball, and he actually, instead of staying in the left mid position, he actually decides to move extremely quickly, as fast as possible. He gets back to his left back position in the top left hand corner. But when it is on occasional, as you can see in this image basically shows it the best. The centre attacking midfielder and the right midfielder have swap positions, as well as the centre back and the centre defence midfielder. Now, whenever you watch my MLO videos, you'll see that every once in a while Hummels might be playing centre back and Ivanovic might be playing centre defence midfield. This is down to the occasional position switch, which I have on. Usually I wouldn't have it on, but every once in a while the long ball tactic actually does have it on automatically, so they would always every once in a while swap position, of course, also down to how attacking my team is. So the left mid and the centre forward probably won't swap. My second striker and centre forward might swap, but it's all sort of down onto what positions you actually have in your team. So if you have like 3 centre midfielders, they will all swap positions, but they won't really have anything too drastically different in terms of your formation. Now when the position switch is on always, it makes it a little bit more difficult, because as you can see here, we have a corner kick with the cam taking the corner, and the left mid, 2 centre backs, a centre forward, second striker and a right mid are in the opponent's half, while the centre defence midfielder, the left back and the right back are in your defensive half. Now when the corner's taken, the corner's been taken, it's been cleared, it gets cleared back out. As you can see, the right midfielders come back to right back, the centre defence midfielders come back to centre back, your right back's playing centre back and your left back come back to left back. Your centre back will go to the centre defence midfield, your centre back, your right centre back would be slowly but surely moving forward, moving backwards to the right midfield slot, so that the right midfielder can go back forward and the centre back can go back to right back, and then the right back moves to centre back. And the centre forward probably take the cam slot due to the cam taking the left mid slot, and the left mid slot taking the second striker slot, and the second striker taking the centre forward slot. Now it doesn't always work like this, sometimes it does, but from the footage which I can show you here, this is from a corner kick, and Mamadou Sakho actually does decide to stay in the centre midfield slot, as you can see. I actually eventually get a shot away with him, and it's a very poor shot, but it's still a shot anyway, because Maxwell is actually playing centre back, and Mamadou Sakho is playing centre defence midfield, and Thiago Motta is actually playing the left back, as well as Jale is down here in the bottom right hand corner, and I think it's Marco Verratti is playing another centre back. So on to attacking style. Now attacking style of course ranges from down the middle to out wide. Now out wide, of course, out wide would suggest that all the players want to get out wide. As you can see here, the cam would be the player on the ball, second striker wants to get out wide, the centre forward wants to move up and down, want to move vertical rather than horizontal in the pitch. Of course they'll still move horizontal, but they want to get out wide. Left midfielder wants to go out wide, right midfielder wants to go out wide, right back out wide and left back out wide. Now the only problem with out wide is that it leaves a lot of gaps in your midfield. For example, if you look at the ball here of Jale, look at Lavezzi for example, he goes inside and Ibrahimovic comes out wide, because Ibrahimovic is playing your centre forward role, so he wants to come out wide. But if you look at the rest of the team is relatively wide, as you can see, and a lot of the players are actually covering the width positions. For example, here Alex is on the ball, and he plays the ball to Jale, and Jale pings the ball onto the other side to Maxwell. Now as you can see, here's Verratti. Verratti makes a move. Instead of moving in midfield and staying in midfield, he actually eventually moves out wide to be available for the pass from Maxwell. When the attacking style is down the middle, the left back and right backs will still provide the width. That's what they're there for. But the left midfielders, centre attacking midfielders, second strikers, centre forwards and right mids all want to go down the middle. So if you're playing a support range of out wide, you want to go either with down the middle attacking style or even out wide attacking style. It's sort of all down to your play style. So if you're playing it out wide, for example, if you're playing your attacking style is out wide, your support range you want to probably would be out wide, because it make more wider support range, because it allows your players to be out wide more. While down the middle, of course, it can be the other way around, so you have a narrow support range, but it can also be the other way around. So you have a wide support range, but down the middle attacking style, so all the players go down the middle while you attack the wings. Now this is shown perfectly here. Ibrahimovic is on the ball in the 48th minute of this game, and he's on the ball, and as you can see, Lavezzi makes a great run down the middle. Now the Lavezzi is actually playing the right midfielder, but because attacking style is down the middle, Lavezzi is making that run into the middle role. Here, Thiago Motta is on the ball, Menez comes inside, and instead of Menez making the run out wide, he decides to stay closer to Ibrahimovic, and everyone, as you can see in this picture shows it off perfectly. Lavezzi on the ball, and look at that, there's three attackers down the middle of the pitch, more or less, with the only person providing width is Maxwell and Jale on the other side. Now on to pressing, and pressing is one of the best of the tactics which you actually need to know how to do. Tight pressing is very, 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 very useful, because as you can see in these pictures shown here, the yellow dot is the centre attacking midfielder for the yellow team, and the orange dot is the ball. Now as you can see, the cam centre defence midfielders and right midfielders are going to press this player. So every once they've pressed them, the only problem with the tight pressing is they leave gaps in behind. As you can see, the right midfielder's moved across, and it allows the left midfielder and the centre defence midfielder to get across into that left gap so they can double up or even triple up on the right back. And it also allows the pass still to be made through. If with quick passing you can still bypass the tight pressing. But when you have a tight pressing, for example here, shows it off perfectly. The centre attack midfielder wants to go back and pressure him, maybe even the centre defence midfielder want back and pressure him. Centre back will pressure him, left back will pressure him, and the top right winger for the yellow team will make the run in behind and a through ball get played, because of course through balls are extremely overpowered in PES. But tight pressing really works well, a lot like Barcelona. Now Barcelona of course pressure all over the pitch, and they want the defenders, as you can see here, to make the problem. When the player in his own half has the ball and you have a second striker playing, second striker, the cam, and the left midfielder will attempt to get the ball off the ball handler. When they've pressured him enough, he has no one to pass it to. He can pass it forward, yes, but the centre back would be probably much closer to the centre forward for the yellow team, and the left back could be marking the left midfielder, the right midfielder most likely. So the player actually has to pass the ball backwards. Now tight marking works ineffectively. It works effectively quite well when you have a relatively narrow compactness, because you mark have a very narrow compactness as well as a high pressing. So they press in groups of 3 or more, as you can see in the following footage. As you see, for example, Pirlo's on the ball here, and as you can see, both Verratti and Thiago Motta want to go out to get the ball off him. As you can see, they're all moving across to eventually get the ball, and Jali does eventually actually get it. But when your pressing is loose, instead of pressing, like as you can see, this picture sort of shows it off perfectly. Instead of pressing the actual player on the ball, they press the loose areas. They keep in control of the loose areas. Now, the footage of course shows this off very perfectly. One player will be pressuring the ball, as you can see, Verratti or Thiago Motta, I think it's Thiago Motta, or maybe even Lavezzi, is stopping Markkoos, and then the Verratti moves out to go and stop Pirlo, and Asamoah tries to get the ball. Now of course I'm playing against myself here on the computer. Of course this is on the hardest difficulty, so the computer of course is playing to the best it can possibly play. But especially when you're playing the computer with these sort of settings, they would be pressing you, but then the whole thing is that it's very difficult to break them down, because they're instead of covering the players and pressing the players, they press the spaces, so they force the players to go backwards. As you can see, Asamoah on the ball here has to play it back to Markkoos. Markkoos tries to play it forward to Asamoah, but he can't. Asamoah has to play it back to Lichtsteiner and back to Markkoos. Like, you have to play proper against loose pressing. It's really weird, considering that with tight pressing, if you play it quickly, you should be able to break down a defense relatively simply. If your opponent is relatively poor at defending, it will be relatively easy to break down tight pressing. But if it's loose pressing, it's relatively a bit more difficult to actually break down the pressing. As you can see here, I eventually do get through, but I had to do some really unbelievably good passing here due to the loose pressing, because they're not pressing the player, but they're pressing the area around the player. The vacant area is probably the best way to describe it. So in the next episode of Markkoos' Guide to Tactics, we will be talking about the defensive line compactness and the preset tactics.